Get Heavy Podcast, hosted by Craig Thesaurus.
So check out the merchandise, localshop.com/getheavypodcast. We got shirts, we got coffee mugs, we got everything up there. The sweatshirts and shorts are dropping soon. Some winter wear coming at you, so check all that out. High quality shit gets turned around quick, sent straight to your door. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/getheavypodcast. $1 a month gets you in the door and gets you all these episodes 1 week early. There's going to be some cool changes coming up. I'm actually going to be releasing the interviews on Tuesdays now. I'm moving the podcast day to Tuesdays. And I'm going to be doing some solo stuff on Thursdays, just kind of more topical stuff, talking about stuff that's going on in the world, something I'm going to try out. So you're going to get 2 pods a week now. The Patreon will get you the interview, whatever guests I talk to 1 week early and probably a day or 2 early for the topical stuff. So check that out. And also rate, subscribe, review, comment, tell your fucking friends about this podcast. I am constantly just fucking truly grateful for everyone that is listening. This thing's growing. It's slowly growing, but it's growing, man. Every day there's some new listeners, there's some new downloads. Check out the YouTube. It all goes on our YouTube page. Let's get those subscribers up. Hit that notifications bell. Don't mean shit to you, but it means the world to me. It really does help me out. And I will stop promoting now. Enjoy the episode.
Okay. How's everything look?
Looks great, dude.
Are you getting the feel of everything?
You got the live plants back. Are they live? Yeah.
Yeah, they're living. They're living. Yeah, I don't fuck with those fake plants, man.
No fake plants for you.
I don't fuck with that fake shit.
Just the real deal shit.
The real deal. Cool. Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I'm
stoked you hit me up. Yeah, I've had like random fools, hit me up, and I'm like, look at them, and you're all, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? But when I hit you up, I obviously checked out. Yeah, they're just, you're just waiting for someone to like drop an N-bomb or something. You know what I mean? You have no idea who fucking people are,
Oh yeah.
I'm not that I had any risk of you doing that, but when I checked out the podcast, I was like, oh, fucking cool, man. This guy's got a good, your podcast is fucking cool, man. Screaming at a wall, right? Is what it's called.
Yeah. That's it. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
This is kind of weird, to have the script flipped on me to do it. You know what I mean? It's like when I go into it, I stress out before I actually do. I mean, it's kind of trippy because I'm sure you've gathered a little bit about my life and my history a little bit.
Yeah.
But having done time, I've been shot at. I've shot at people. Mm-hmm. I've been in the most crazy sort of setups, but going to interview someone, I'm like,
it brings out some anxiety. What I found, and I'm no fucking pro by any means, is that the more research I do, the worse it sounds. You know what I mean? Because I'm
trying to stick to it.
Well, I mean, you just I don't know. You want it to be fucking. The terrifying thing is dead air, right? I mean, you don't want to have someone just not. Some people are just hard to engage, dude. I did my absolute hands down worst interview is I got to interview the bass player for my favorite band on earth. His hero is gone. You know who they are? They're like a gnarly fucking crust. They're in the Drop Dead era. They're Tragedy now. They used to be. Have you heard that hardcore? They're that D-beat band Tragedy. Anyway, it's punk shit, but they're my favorite band on earth, and it was the hardest fucking interview because he's so quiet and he's an artist, and then he did all the artwork for him and stuff like that, and I don't know what happened at the end, but every time I asked him about His Hero's Gone, he'd shut down on me, dude, and it was hard. It was so fucking hard.
So you guys, you don't usually do a thing where you kind of do a pre-interview, you kind of just jump into it.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Rarely, dude. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm better off the cuff. I think I can carry, my arrogance. I think I could carry a conversation okay enough to make it okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
but I find that I do stress myself out if I do more research than I need to. I have this barrel of questions and I don't get to develop on topics that I find, you know what I mean?
It's the exact opposite for me. I'll do I mean, that's actually how I found you. I was going to do the interview with Noah Levine. And so I was just looking up for, recent interviews, and one of your interview that you did with him popped up. And I like to do that just to have backup. I go into it the same way I guess you do, in the sense of you just are, you want to communicate. I like the fact that like we can deviate from something. Like if I'm like starting off somewhere, it's totally fine to deviate, because that's where the deep exploration of, somebody's, journey or whatever emotions or feelings about a certain thing. That's when it becomes fun. And sometimes if it's too structured and you're sort of staying on path, I only have like 8 episodes, but I used to do interviews for a punk rock magazine called Destroy All.
Right.
And I so I was, I got my feet wet with doing that, but just in general, like people fascinate me.
Yeah. Well, and the nature and what you do on your podcast, right? You talk to a lot of ex-felons. You know what I mean? I think the cool thing about it is that it is type a kind of specific, like thing, right? You talk to a lot of ex-felons that have put their lives together, lived crazy experiences, and use that shit to create cool stuff, right? And I kind of do the same thing. I want to talk to people that use DIY culture to create a fucking world for themselves. You know what I mean? And so that's what drew me to you when I started listening to it. I was like, oh fuck yeah, this guy's in the same space. But DIY, as you know, and as I know, talking to an ex-drug addict felon, that conversation can go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, especially with I was listening to that one with you did with the guy that robbed the banks, the bank robber dude,
Shane Enholm.
Yeah, and it was like, it was a fucking awesome interview, because every story he told was like, holy shit. But it was like
everyone. Just the first one was, he's really amazing. I mean, he's the ideal person to interview, where you can just ask one question and then he can, definitely he can just go off, and his memory is really amazing.
It's shocking.
And
shocking.
And I've become friends with him after doing that interview. Again, just this process is really cool. But yeah, being able to have someone like that where you can just kind of throw something out and then they just run with it.
Go on it.
Yeah.
Because I grew up around a lot of felons, a lot of fucking criminals, animals. You know
where did you grow up at?
I grew up I say I grew up in the desert, right? I was born way out in like past Lancaster. In Trona, it's Ridgecrest.
Okay, I grew up in Lancaster.
Right, so I'm from 13. Trona, which I've
never even heard of that place.
Right, you ever heard of Ridgecrest?
Ridgecrest, yeah.
So 30 more miles into the desert, it's a tiny little fucking town. It's insane, dude.
Oh damn.
So I grew up out there. I grew up a little bit in Roseman, and then when I was 12 or 10 or 12, we moved to Ventura.
Damn, you lived in Roseman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right on B Street, right next to the Foster Freeze, dude.
My probably like I actually remember that.
We probably used to hang together when we were kids.
Well, my dad, when he got remarried for a split second, and his girlfriend lived out there, and it was right when I got into skating too, and then I actually met some buddies of mine that ended up moving to this random trailer park in Rosemead, but yeah, that chick was like so crazy. I remember there was a point I went over to their place, and this had to be maybe like 4 months into them being married, and he was like trying to talk to her in the kitchen. We were about to go somewhere, and he's like, "Look, baby," he tried to like grab her arm, and she just turned around, and she had a like butcher knife in her hand, and she's like, "Don't you fucking dare touch me!" And I was just like, "What the?" It was like, I've had really interesting representation for females in my life, like growing up. So that just sort of added to it, you know what I mean? But Roseman, I remember my first girlfriend lived out in Mojave, and I would go out there as well. And it was just boredom, you know?
Oh, it is. There's nothing to do besides get in trouble. I mean,
yeah.
I grew up riding motorcycles and doing the thing and riding BMX bikes. Obviously, skateboarding wasn't a thing back then. Out there, you didn't have.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
You're 39. Okay, yeah. So, did you spend any time in Lancaster?
My whole family. I got tons of family that still live there. My old man still lives there, so I'm there all the time.
Do you remember a place called Surf and Turf?
No.
It was It was like Raging Waters, but out there in Lancaster.
Oh, okay.
It was right by the
yeah,
really
I remember
big
the
park,
water park. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I do
And they
remember
closed. They shut it down. I think in '90, somewhere around then.
that. Okay.
And I had just got into skateboarding, and we used to go there all the time because the mini golf course, they took the water out, and
Yeah.
you could skate in there, and then that was a spot. And I had no idea that there was like other people at the time skating, other than like the few people that were, because it was a handful. You could count them on two hands. And back in, man, when was that? Like,
this is
maybe about
mid-90s.
Well, that was early 90s. So flash forward, right? I grew up thinking that there was nobody else like skating around that time. Flash forward, I took all my homies. So I had a skate shop that I owned, and there was a connection to a backyard pool. And so my buddy Clayton, the guy's name was King Rich, I believe his name was. He was connected to another guy that owned a backyard pool. So anyway, we went out there and met the guy, and they had grown up out there. So they were like the 18, 19-year-old dudes that were skating out in the AV, and I had no idea. But he showed me pictures of skating the spot that we skated at, and it kind of blew my mind that there was somebody else skating.
There's a long history of skaters. My mom in the 70s skated pools out there. She grew up skating pools, you know what I mean?
Moms did?
Yeah, my mom, yeah, she's fucking what? My mom was also like 17, 18 when she had me, right? So but yeah, she fucking, there's pictures of her skating pools and stuff back in the day, but
oh man, you gotta send me those.
Off the
file. I would love to see those.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, dude. But she, there was a skate culture in the 70s, and then I think maybe 80s, and then it started to die out because there's just nowhere to fucking skate besides an abandoned water park or a high school or college or whatever, but street skating really wasn't around. And I didn't know much about skating. It was a hindrance to me to skate anywhere in Roseman because everything was fucking gravel and dirt.
Yeah.
And so I just hopped on my little 3-wheeler and would putt around with my 22 and shoot shit all day, And then when I moved to Ventura, that's where I found skateboarding. That was like my first true love.
Did you say you were just skating around randomly, just shooting stuff with your 22 rifle, or
totally, dude.
Just at dirt mounds or something?
Yeah, whatever, fucking rabbits, fucking whatever, dude. I would literally like at 8, 9 years old, my old man got me like a little bolt action 22 rifle. I would pack my backpack in the morning, fucking jump on my little 3-wheeler, my Yamaha 80 3-wheeler, and I'd fucking be gone all day just shooting shit, dude.
What a polar opposite to my experience.
Really?
With a 22 gun.
Yeah,
my brother, he had gotten out of camp, like, I don't know, it was the second or third time.
Like fire camp kind of shit? What kind of camp?
Juvenile camp.
Oh,
my brother got
camp.
He actually got busted going back to my dad's like second marriage or whatever. He got busted 3 days for the first time he ever got busted. It was 3 days before my dad got married, so they didn't know where my brother was. And apparently he had stolen a car and went on a high-speed chase.
Hell yeah, dude.
And then so with the 22 gun, he had gotten out, right? And he was involved with crazy shit already. I just remember him always like coming home with like a new Nintendo or something. Burglarized someplace. Yeah. But he's like one it was like I think it was like the afternoon, and he was like, hey, like Chris, that's my real name, and he's like, let's go out to the dirt field, I want to show you something. And we were like staying at a motel, Sherwood Motel. It was a really bad time, but anyway, so he takes me out to the desert, and there's like a mound, and he pulls out a 22, and he's like, check this out. And he like shoots at the mound of dirt. Yeah. And I'm like pretty innocent. Like he's already living.
How old are you at the time?
Dude, I was like, I think I was about 10.
Right.
Cause he's about like, he was like 13 or 14. It's crazy that he was already in the system that young.
Right.
But I was in my own little world at that point.
Which you should be. You're fucking 10, right? You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be being drugged into gnarliness.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he did, or he chose, but he was always kind of bad. But he's doing like 60-something years.
Wow, really?
Now.
Still, huh? Done forever. I mean,
Well,
is there a possibility he'll get out?
He has 7 to life with 60 years of enhancements. So basically, he went on a high-speed chase and shot a rifle out of a car, and he shot twice. And they said that he was shooting at the cops, but with the second shot, that it bumped up his assault on a police officer to attempted murder.
Right.
So he got 7 to life, right, for the actual crime, and then he got 60 years of enhancements. So of gun, gang,
right,
fucking whatever. I don't some other stuff, but he's fighting. I'm getting connected to places like Initiate Justice, who basically put they set up like bills and stuff to be able to get passed.
Right.
He was looking for the AB 1513, I think it was. It didn't pass, but it was basically to reduce enhancements, because there's a lot of dudes in there that they have their sentence, and because he's been down for like 18, 19 years. And so he would already been able to parole.
Yeah, totally.
And he's doing good. Like, he's doing college courses, staying out of trouble. Right. I mean, he's really, really trying, because he just wants that opportunity.
But 18 years of your fucking life, dude, for one bad decision, I mean, obviously we all make our bed, right? We got to lay in it, and we can go 2.5 hours on how bad fucking the justice system is here.
Oh yeah, country, for sure.
I mean? But I wanted to know, like, when is he the one that helped? When did you start getting into trouble? Like, when was it around that age that you started? Would you follow your brother into it, or did you find your own?
No, it wasn't even at that age, because I think it was about 14. What most kids go through when they're figuring out their identity.
Oh yeah,
and who they are, and they start to change the way that they dress. And I personally didn't have anybody around me to guide me. So that was like right off the bat, the odds of me going down the route that my brother went down it was highly likely. The odds were stacked.
Yeah, when you have one parent, it's tough. When you got no parents, it's fucking almost impossible, right?
And for sure. Like, and then my mom's suffered from mental illness. So, I mean, there was times when I had to, kind of take care of myself.
Right.
And so I ended up moving in with my dad, who was like a workaholic, alcoholic. And, he was around one of those parents that's, I guess they call them, they neglect. They're like around, but they don't really do too much, because, fact of the matter is he didn't have the tools to do that, because his life was kind of trippy. But, it wasn't until that point when I started trying to like figure myself out, and that's when I kind of started going down that path. I started not doing good in school, and then hanging around taggers, at first, going from, I guess, like a skate kid to going into like tagging, and I was never good at it. I was a toy.
Yeah, I used to fuck around too. But I was never good at it, dude. Friends that were great at it. Same thing with skateboarding. I loved it, was never great at it. All my friends were getting sponsored. They're like, we're going to go skate the Hollywood High 15 rail. You want to go? I'm all, no. Like, no. Why? Why?
So I can just stand around.
Yeah, watch you guys fucking kill yourselves. I'm good.
Yeah. But, I think it really, like, for me, it like really started at that time. And then I started doing methamphetamine at 14.
Wow.
So that's
that fucking AV. That's that AV curse right there, baby.
It is. I mean, that's what I was saying. My brother, he was high off of meth when he did his crime. I mean, that was his downfall ultimately, is that he was doing meth. Right. But up until that point, I wasn't. I was hanging around people that were thuggish. And, it's funny because I reflect on that now. And I think there's a part of me that wanted to walk down the path that my brother walked down to experience what he experienced, because that was really never me. It was just, what I've learned after all this time is I just put a mask on each time. I mean, mask at that time, and then a mask when I went to juvenile hall, then a mask when I went to prison. And, it's been this constant just layering up and never really dealing with like my own shit. But but So the gang thing is a very interesting thing because, you know, Lancaster, you know, you have white power skinheads on one block, and then you have
what's the lowhead skinhead
Nazi lowriders?
Nazi lowriders.
Yeah, I don't think those guys, dude. I don't think those guys are around
probably much anymore. Yeah.
But you know, it's funny, when I got to prison, those were kind of the dudes I was hanging around with, because I ended up actually getting into a Hispanic gang at one point, because that's just who I knew that was around me, and that's where it ended up. But you know, there again, like I said, like you'll have those white power skins on one block, and then anti like sharps on another block, and then you'll have Crips, and then you'll have blood. It's just a weird like place to live, to try to figure out your shit if you're on that path. And so I ended up actually connecting with like Hispanic gangs for some reason, you know. And then I moved down to my mom's in South LA, and that's when it got pretty crazy. But
was that gang continuing, and was it the same gang in LA as it was out there?
No. Oh, so I was hanging around with dudes that were, I guess, representing other neighborhoods that were from LA, right? You know, because that's basically all the gangs, primarily all the gangs that are there, like gangs that came from the valley.
Yeah, because I remember when Lancaster was Kern County, right? And I remember when LA
it was
County.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it was Lancaster. LA bought out fucking Lancaster. And that's when they started developing all those project housing on the East End and all that shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like in the fucking mid '90s or whatever, because it was was a part of Kern County up until
were everywhere.
Yeah, that's when they started actively fucking trying to gentrify LA and started moving everyone, free housing, fucking all this shit to the desert. Which I'm not against any of that. I think people need help and all this stuff, but they're starting to morph nicer neighborhoods in LA. And they started fucking moving everyone out there.
Now it's bad.
It's nuts. That's why we call it Pompton. You know what I mean?
We
crazy. Call Palmdale Pompton.
Pompton.
Yeah, that's what it's always been called to me. You know what I mean?
That's funny. Yeah. I knew at one point, like, people started moving out there, but I mean, at the same time, they were building tract homes that were $100,000. So a lot of people from LA were moving out there.
Yeah. And there was both. There's both. You know what I mean?
But it's weird that they would do that at the same time, because eventually, those people that are, wanting to just live in a sort of suburban home and have a family, like those two mixtures are just not going to blend well at some point. And that's eventually what happened, because all those people moved from there, and it is what it is now. I mean, it's when I went out to skate that backyard pool for that shoot that I was doing. So we were at the 7-Eleven and we were getting gas, and there was this gangster dude with like dreads. It was a Hispanic guy. But he was talking like he was a Crip or a Blood or something. But so he was like yelling at this couple, and three of the dudes that I was with went inside the 7-Eleven, and then I hung back with one of my buddies, and we were just like, hanging out there. And then we kind of saw this guy, verbally attacking like this couple. Right. And then he had a rock in his hand. And then, so we're watching. I'm like, my blood like kind of boils up. I get on guard when I'm around that type of thing. Totally. And I used to have a tendency to just like kind of want to get involved and just get a little excitement. Yeah. But I was like, okay, I'm not here for that. And so the dude walks by, right? And I forget what he asked, but he ends up saying something smart ass. And I was like, dude, we're minding our own business. You should do the same. Right. And then he kind of walked towards the street, and then he started yelling at the couple again. They had come back out from the store. And he started kind of getting close to me, and he had the rock in his hand, and then he was looking at them and then looking at me. And then I don't remember what he said, but I went into full on threat mode. Yeah. Totally. And I just decked him. And then I like grabbed his hair too, because like I said, he had like long braided hair. Totally, and I just like grabbed him and then swirl him around. And I don't want to I'm not telling you this type of stuff to sort of glorify any of those things, because I think myself right now, I mean, unless like the dude really got up, I've learned now to actually step away, and I would have been like, now I'd be like, I'm walking away from this guy. But anyway, at the time I was definitely not fully there. I still had those tendencies. So I ended up, grabbing the dude and swirling him around, and then he fell, and I hit him, and they got up and then like took off. Yeah. And then the dudes I was with, 2 of them came out, and and my buddy Clayton Grawl, it's so funny. So 2 of the dudes had already come out of the store, and they saw what was going on, and then they were running behind me, and I had no idea that they were running behind me. And then I caught up to the guy, and then I grabbed him again by his hair, and then swung him down, and then started hitting him. And I should have just let the guy go.
Hey, man, but we all should have done a lot of things in the past.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just because I haven't told the story for a while. So
I'm not done with you yet, motherfucker.
Yeah. And dude, the dudes that I was with, I won't say their name, but they started like attacking him, and then they took his shit. And I was like, okay, that's where I'm like, let's go, guys, because I'm not trying to like get a robbery charge because you guys are. But respect to the War Pigs crew, because those dudes have always been down. But man. So I'm like, dude, we gotta get the fuck out of here. We gotta go. Oh, and I heard an ambulance, and that like scared me. I was like, damn, okay. So we end up going back into the parking lot, and my buddy Clayton is walking out of the store, and he has an ice cream in his hand, and he has no idea what is going on. He's like, what's up? And we're like all sweating and like hyper, like breathing hard. We gotta go. Yeah. And he's like, okay. And we all get in the car and then like take off. But that was so funny to me.
We always have that one buddy that's like cutely unaware of what the fuck's happening. He's over here licking his drumstick, and you guys were at fucking war. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. But I've had many moments, because I grew up, I have that same trauma response, dude. As soon as, I mean, I grew up, I grew up fighting Nazis and fucking, I never went the gang route, right? Like I was always around thugs and bikers and all this shit. And, I always was able to watch it from afar and realize I don't want to do that, right? So I luckily, young enough, I found music, and I found skateboarding, and I found real positive outlets that kept me out of fucking trouble, right? But I still have those same responses, dude. If I see a dude yelling at a chick on the street, my first initial is to punch him in the fucking face and then ask him questions, right? So I have that same thing in me where I don't. And I've actively learned how to walk away from it. And what I realized over the years is that I'm attracting it. You know what I mean? Because the way in which, I react to a situation, this homeless guy is fucking screaming at some chick, and he sees me like mad dogging him, and now I've just invited him into my space, right? So I'm not saying I don't do nothing, but I've, over the years, have learned that the way I carry myself is actively inviting fucking people to fuck with me. You know what I mean? And it took me a long time to really learn how to not do that. You know what I mean? To really mind my own fucking business, unless there is a real reason for me to step in, and there's been plenty of times where I have stepped in and I felt it was for righteous reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to say, relating to that and the trauma response, and I understand it so much more now than I have ever understood it, even though, I mean, I recently got in a fight, I don't know, like a month and a half ago on a basketball court, but but it was a direct threat where,
right.
But before, I mean, I could almost sense, right? And I don't know, part of that is growing up in a high
in a chaotic world, dude. Yeah.
Well, yeah, a high intensity environment where you constantly have to be on guard and aware. So, for myself, I'm hypersensitive as it is. Mm-hmm. So you add on growing up in an environment that was dysfunctional, and then on top of that, going to prison, and you know what I mean? And you put all those things together. Like I didn't realize it, up until recently, that's what causes me to be constantly aware of surroundings and people and movement and how they talk, how they're carrying.
Oh, totally.
And if I go into a place and there's something going on, I know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've been with people that are just like, they have
no idea. Right.
No idea.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way, dude. My spidey senses. It is a blessing. It is a blessing, right? I mean,
yeah.
The fact that, you're the culmination of chaos that you grew up in, and myself included. I walk into a situation, I can fucking read the room, and I can tell this guy's going to be a problem, right? Like, even like when I was playing shows, I still play shows, but we'd walk into a strange bar in the middle of fucking nowhere. Within 5 minutes, I can tell, okay, this dude's going to be a fucking problem tonight. And 90% of the time, I'm right. You know what I mean? Because I know how to read the room. I know how to fucking, I know this guy's, it's 7 p.m. This guy's slurring his fucking words, and he's already acting belligerent, right? Or even like a fight on the street or whatever. I've been so acutely aware to this stuff my whole life because I grew up in it. Whereas I have friends and bandmates that we'd be in a situation, I'm like, hey, we need to get the fuck out of here. And they're like, why? And I'm all, we got to get out of here. We're in the wrong spot.
Using your powers for good.
Yeah, we're in the wrong spot. People are not stoked we're here.
Right, yeah.
We got to fucking go. We're in a bad bar in South Philly. We got to get the fuck out of here, dude. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. And 90% of the time I'm right. You know what I mean? And they're like, how'd you fucking know that was going to happen? I'm like, well, when I came in, I heard this fucking dude arguing with this other dude over a chick. And I just overheard it, and my spidey senses are going off. Yeah. And I watched this dude all night be belligerent to everyone in the fucking bar, and now it's our turn. You know what I mean? We got to get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah, that happened to me at a bar. I was already in a bad place, but I had just lost my skate shop. Well, I lost the lease on it. Right. And I was going through a separation, and I was going to this bar in Silver Lake. It's like a skate bar. And there was cholos there, right? And I was by the bar. I was with my friend, and I was by the bar, and they were like close to me, and I could feel it. I was like,
yeah,
something's
the vibes
happen,
off,
right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I already knew it. But at that point, I was like, I'm going to shift my body to another place away from these guys. But and what happened, they ended up, I guess, disrespecting. They were like cholo dudes, and it's mostly like skaters and hipsters or whatever at this bar. Right. And so they ended up getting 86th, right? And so the bar back came over, and I don't know, and their security guy, and they're like, you guys got to get out. And of course, they just like, the response was like, fuck you, and yeah, blah blah blah. And so I'm like, and they ended up throwing a glass at one of the barbacks, who is like one of the nicest guys.
It's always that guy that gets hit,
dude. Yeah, and
he's like, why?
Yeah, he's got like a teddy bear. He's holding a teddy bear, and he's like just a sweet guy.
Oh, hit that pussy.
So I end up shifting over to kind of go towards the bar, and I'm watching, but I'm at this point getting closer, and one of the guys is yelling, and then he starts yelling at a patron that's there, right? And I was kind of by this guy, and he starts coming towards me. I was like, dude, you need to wait there. You better stop. Don't come any closer to me. And he got closer. And he got close to that. I don't know the distance, you know what I mean? Yeah. That like in my mind, it's like, okay, that distance is past that threshold. I think it's about like 3 feet. You know what I mean? If
it's get him before he gets you. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Yeah, totally.
And I ended up knocking the dude into a table with like a bunch of people sitting in it, straight out of like a movie. He kind of gets up, comes at me again. And then I just overhand right, and I buckle him, and then dude, it was so weird, but they ended up leaving, right? And then everyone's like clapping, like it was like a scene out of a movie. And then the bartender gave me a free beer, and he's like, nice. Thank you, because they can't do anything to the guys.
Yeah, most people aren't equipped for wolves, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how
just in general, they're not really supposed to touch those dudes. But
this is how most people operate. You know what I mean? And this is like why I find that people that have gone through crazy shit, like even punkers, fucking ex-felons, stuff like that, like they are, we are more equipped to deal with fucking chaos than anyone. You know what I mean? They just don't normal people, they went to high school, they got in a couple fights, they went to college, fucking had a kid, now they work some shit job, and they're here at a bar on a weekend trying to have a great time. You know, whereas like I'm saying me, you know, I've seen what chaos is, you know what I mean? And I know how to operate within these realms that it's not, I don't see things the same as everyone else. And I think a lot of people that grew up like you did, and like me a little bit, you know what I mean? You just don't see things the same. You see the foreseeable problem coming that, you know, how many guys have you seen get blindsided by a fucking punch? You know what I mean? Like I've rarely ever been blindsided by a punch. You know what I mean? Like if the punch is coming, I know it's fucking coming, unless I got drilled in the back of the head, you know, but like if I'm standing there toe to toe with someone, I know what's going to happen, dude. And I'll punch you first, you know, just because why talk, you know, but I think a lot of people don't understand how the world works, you know?
Let me ask you this on the tip of, I guess, being comfortable with chaos. How were you in the very beginning of when the virus came and the people were kind of freaking out? How did you respond to it?
I get excited. Dude. Like I got excited.
I asked you that because I was thriving.
Yeah, me too.
Like, this is I feel so at home right now.
Totally, dude.
I go to therapy, and my therapist was like, 99% of the people I see are
terrified.
They're comfortable. Well, no.
Oh, okay.
Because they're all going to therapy, so they're all like people that they just felt really comfortable in that chaos. And no, I get excited, dude. Like I am a child of the apocalypse. I was been, like,
you know what I mean? Like I'm like, dude, this is my time to shine. Let's fucking do this. You know what I mean?
You will be one of the survivors. You will be one of the people that is in the movie. You will be one of the main characters in the movie, not all those foolish people that just died,
and you know, I don't want to be so arrogant to assume, you know what I mean? But I feel like I got a pretty fucking good chance of surviving, dude. You know what I mean? Like if the world, and I thought, part of me didn't think the world was going to fall apart. We didn't know it was going to be this fucking ridiculous, right?
It's sort of fallen apart in a different way.
It's fallen apart in a mental, you know what I mean? Like I think the ultimate underlying fabric of us is falling apart rather than, I mean, there was a bit of a
psychologically.
Yeah.
But
there's almost that's where I come alive, dude.
Civil war.
That's where I come alive. I'm like, let's fucking go. You know, because I'm like a general lefty on 90% of things, all social issues, all that stuff. But there's a few things about me. I like fucking guns, dude. I know how to run a bulldozer. I fucking know where all the running springs are in the middle of the desert. I know where all the caves are. I'm fucking ready. You know, like, you know, I fucking.
Well, see, I don't even understand why. I mean, because that's the general consensus, right? Like the opposite things of what you said, as far as like the left is like, you still can't be someone that is about survival or is, you know what I mean, like on guard in those, or like guns, you know what I mean? That's where a lot of issues I think come from, is that you can't be in the middle, or the idea of developing an individual thought is really becoming non-existent. It's totally. Like you're either this or you're that,
right? And
that's what I see, like what's going on, because I'm the same. I ultimately I would love to live in utopia.
Great.
And there's ideas about that. I don't think that's necessarily possible because we're driven so much by the ego and tribalism and
individualism.
We're playing team sports right now.
Right.
And but you can be someone that could, man, I love people, but still want to shoot a gun in the desert.
Totally,
like you know what I mean? That's totally fine.
Yeah,
totally,
it is fine.
Totally.
And you know, I as a general centrist, you know, on most things, like I'm generally embarrassed for both of the sides. If you built your whole entire identity off of the right or the left, I'm embarrassed for you. You know what I mean? Like how can you live and not understand that life is so full of nuance and gray that there is room for every fucking thing on both sides, right? I mean, like, you know, take this abortion law in Texas and all that shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's bananas. It's bananas that they're going to ban that. You know what I mean? And you know, like I said, I'm all for everyone's choice. I can't fucking believe that we're letting a theocracy fucking rule this place when our country is founded on the separation of church and state. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely for, your right to choose to do whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean? Because I do believe in freedom over all things. You know what I mean? Like, and whether that ends up being left or right, it doesn't fucking matter to me.
I think a lot of what we perceive as freedom is an illusion.
Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, it really is. And I guess that's where it's really easy to, you could talk about race, you could talk about politics, you can talk about all these things and all these opinions, but there's an illusion going on, and that's there, and the illusion of freedom to a certain extent, right? Like people that are complaining about having to wear a mask, and they're talking about, my freedom's being taken away. You're riding around with a seatbelt on.
No, totally.
Is that something that you want to do? A lot of people don't want to do that. They're just born into it where that has become the law, and that's what they have to do if they want to not get a ticket. Like, you have a right not to wear the seatbelt, but you are going to get a ticket. But
or fucking die. You know what I mean? In a car accident.
But if that's what you want to do, just like riding a motorcycle, if you want to roll on your motorcycle and not wear a helmet, that's really your choice.
It is, yeah.
But relating why it's people are just spotlighting these views or these opinions really that are being pushed by someone else entirely.
Totally.
It's not something, it's like, nobody's complaining about food companies that are producing food, making food that causes cancer, and obesity, and what's creates all these health problems. I mean, really, that list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of interesting to me that people are really only spotlighting this one thing. Specifically, like, not necessarily like the abortion thing, but like that should be spotlighted. And I also think maybe that's a distraction, but
it could be.
It could be. I don't know. At this point, I don't know shit, man. I just that's what I've like.
Enough to know you don't know shit. That's how I say it all the time. I'm like, I know enough to know that I don't know anything. That's about how it goes.
And most people are not walking around saying that, and that's actually part of the problem.
I know,
everyone's walking around like they have the answer, and nobody does.
No one does.
We're floating on this rock through space, and it's I don't know.
It's laughable, man. I mean, it really is. It just doesn't. There's so much nuance in this life, dude. And it's same thing with the woke culture, right? They're bitching about the injustices of this and that while they're tweeting on their fucking phone that's made in a sand mine and the fucking, you know what I mean? Like the amount
batteries
of the batteries that are mined by children, the lithium, all this shit. You're bitching about fucking your right to fucking not be dead named on Twitter or whatever it is you're bitching about on your phone, dude. You know what I mean? Which is like, when you really get down to it, the more you step back and look at the big picture, I think we're just too goddamn comfortable, man. I mean, we are at the end, in my opinion, of how far capitalism and this society can go. We're too comfortable.
I mean, possibly. I don't even know if, capitalism is actually the problem, right?
I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying we're at the end of it.
Oh, yeah. Because our ability to, I guess, be detached from any sort of primal instinct, because that's why I think capitalism sort of thrives in that, is that being tethered to the very primitive state of mind, right? Like of a human being. We don't have to worry about these things that we once had to worry about. And so they're all those things that we still have within us are used, you know what I mean? Whether it be applications and wanting these quick fixes and these dopamine fixes where we're like, oh man, it's hit. Oh yeah, I got a like. And it's like, this is like, people are using that against us to make money. And whether it be politics with fear, you know what I mean? Like, this is what you need to fear, because we have that. We need to fear something. What do I need to fear now?
Well, they're going to tell you what you can fear. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. With
feed us what our fears are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's being spotlighted right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know this because this is what people are all of a sudden concerned about. You're a humanist. You care about people, and you didn't get vaxxed, or if you did, or like whatever, and you're somehow a monster because you're not. But these they don't have any other opinions on anything else that is harmful to human beings. And it's like they're only choosing to spotlight this one thing. And when people do that, that makes me,
well, all of a sudden now they're a warrior for whatever cause, right? You know,
it is a part of like
a
half-assed warrior.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like it's virtue signaling. All it is throwing up the bat light, telling everyone that you're on this team. You know what I mean? It's I don't know how much of people really give a shit, to be honest. You know, because when you talk to people, I work in an industry of fucking people that I completely disagree with. You know what I mean? 90% of the time. And when you really get down to it and you really fucking talk, you know, a massive amount of Trump supporters, and, you know, I'm not a Biden supporter by any means, but there's a few things that everyone fucking agrees on. Everyone agrees that these politicians are lying to us. Everyone agrees that fucking, you know, there should be money out of politics. You know, we all agree on these certain things, but it is, and I think by design, a nation divided is easier to control, right? I mean, they keep us fighting among ourselves. And I say they like there's a grand scheme. I don't know. There probably fucking is.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, there is. Like the people that are in a position of power want to stay there. They don't want.
Why wouldn't you want to stay there? I want to stay there.
I
like my garage. You know, but it's. I mean, it goes every direction, and we're all fucking guilty of sleeping on the job. Every one of us. Because and I've said, you know, I think if we really wanted to change some shit, our power is consumerism. We, you know, obviously the power's in the workers. If workers strike, fucking things change, right? I come from a union. I work for a union. You know, workers striking makes a big difference. But the everyday motherfucker, our power is in consuming. If every one of us decided we're not buying oil or gas for fucking 2 weeks, how fast do you think Exxon would fucking change their policies? If everyone's decided fuck Amazon for a month, Jeff Bezos would fucking end his rocket program right now. You know what I mean? Like, but we won't, because convenience is a killer. You know, we're conveniently unhappy. I think that's really what it is.
Right. And that connects to our I think our primal state. Like, we are inherently lazy, and we don't, you know, I mean, I deal with things that I'm sort of restrained, you know, that I'm constantly trying to grow and get unattached to, you know, my perceptions or emotions or like whatever it is. But I mean, that's the difference between somebody with a growth mindset and someone with a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. You know, I personally have always been that way.
Well, I mean, also, growth, I mean,
it's so funny that I say that, and I'm like talking about how I was like doing math when I was.
Well, but it is though, you know, I mean, you have to understand what you've lost and what you've missed out on in order to grow, right? You know, you being a fucking, you know, in prison, gangs, fucking shooting at people on the street. You know what the other side looks like, dude. And you made the decision to not want to be there anymore, right? So you've seen that.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't. They don't know how bad it can fucking get, you know?
Well, I was going to say, this is kind of going back to what you were talking about with most people live in a bubble and it doesn't allow them. This is another issue, I think, that is going on with the inability to look at the other side and break it down and be like, okay, this other person's a human being. They've learned something along the way. And, you know, anybody, like if somebody, you know, like myself, who went through all that I went through, was able to change my mind, change a lot of things, or really just reconnect me back to that person, to that kid before all that stuff happened. We all have that in us. And so I think that a lot of people that live in that bubble are not really, they don't have that ability to see the other side. And people that have grown up in a certain environment where you've seen every class of every type of person, every race, or, you know, just been in the trenches. And this is, you know, for most of the people that I know that are still out, that have done time or have been in an environment where they were able to rise above and get out of that environment or a negative environment, they're not judgmental.
No.
Sure, there's exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, it's because they have this direct experience, a human experience, where that alone, it connects you. You start to realize and break down like all these things that you think or what you thought was reality, and then you figure out down the road that you're actually constructing your own reality. So it's like you're choosing to stay in that state of mind as opposed to trying to recreate it and maybe accept someone that has a different opinion. I don't never know where to look.
Because I'm looking at you.
Corner.
I'm looking at you.
I was legit looking at your boom mic stand. I'm like, why am I looking? It
doesn't matter
there.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just like my eyes are gonna be all crossed.
Mine are always crossed
over there.
Yeah, I fucked up and turned on this light. Now I look like I'm Donald fucking Trump over here, dude. So,
shit! You know what I was gonna actually tell you earlier is you look like Brian. You look like Brian Posehn, and I'm sure you've gotten that.
Well, I started growing my beard back. Right, I had a huge beard for 20 years, and the one thing, the one thing that I did do as a panic in COVID is shaved my face because I hadn't seen it in so long, and the mask was pissing me off. I mean, I was wearing it, but I was like, you know what, man? I should
the weird diaper.
I should see my face before I get old. I shaved it off and had a full like midlife crisis. Like I was like, who am I? Oh my god! I totally freaked out. So it's starting to grow back.
It's so funny that you say. It's so funny that you say that because I had a beard up until I think 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
No, maybe like 2 months ago, and I had it for a minute, and that's the same thought that went through my head was, I'm still young. I want to see my face.
Right.
You know what I mean?
My wife had never seen my face.
Wow.
Yeah. Like she met me with a beard.
I saw a photo because I was lurking on your Instagram and I was like, damn, okay. Yeah. He's looking sexy with no beard. And I was like,
nope.
And then he grew it back.
Yeah. I did it for a while.
Lose your powers or something.
I felt like, I literally had like, cause I was like so weird. Like it was like, in the middle of this, the George Floyd protests and all this stuff. And like, I started like really asking myself, like, dude, like, am I the fat dude with tattoos and the beard in Ventura? Like, or am I, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to know who I was.
Gun rack and your pickup
yeah.
truck.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be this guy if I'm not this guy. You know what I mean? It was like, I had a weird thing where I really thought like when they were talking about race and all this stuff, like I'm an avid anti-racist, you know what I mean? But I'm also pretty goddamn white trash, dude. You know what I mean? And I have these things built into me that you wonder, like, dude, am I really, like, when we're talking about all this race stuff, like, do I have things about me that are fucking not okay? You know what I mean? And for some reason, it popped in my head, like, okay, well, you want to ask yourself real hard questions. Why don't you stare at your fucking face for the first time in 20 years?
And the beard.
Yeah, and the beard
had to be the...
Yeah, it was the catalyst for it. It was really weird. And now I'm in therapy. I'm sober. Yeah, I'm sober now. Yeah, it was fucking weird. And I'm
your
30.
Your beard should be pissed off at you right now. He's like, oh, what? Okay.
All this now. Yeah, and I'm not racist. I'm not. But I just thought, like, yeah, damn, who the fuck am I? Like, I want to be a comprehensive
person. You were walking around with a Hitler stash or something. I mean, it's like just a beard.
It's just
but that's interesting.
But 20 years of having something,
yeah,
being the same fucking person for 20 years, the same guy that has this huge fucking black beard and now it's gray. But it made me want to ask myself some fucking deep, weird questions. And it was cool that I did it, but I'll never do it again.
It's interesting that I think for a lot of people, it's an external change that they need as opposed to the internal, because obviously you held certain beliefs and ideas that were already incongruent with that without having to change an exterior thing.
Yeah, but for me it was like I wanted to be uncomfortable. I wanted to fucking make myself uncomfortable because I do have a growth mindset. I wanted to feel uncomfortably physically in order to fucking make myself really look at myself, you know what I mean? For
instead,
what
you just became handsome.
I guess so. Yeah, there you go. But
Yeah.
but I did want to ask, like you were talking about, people that are actively making that change to do better. Did you have a specific moment? Obviously, being in gangs and prison. What was the moment that you changed your mindset and decided like I am not going to be this person anymore? Or was it a series of moments? Were you into punk rock like as a kid or no?
I was not into punk rock.
Oh, okay.
I had listened to Suicidal Tendencies and DRI because of movies. Well, DRI because of Gleam in the Cube.
Right.
And I didn't really know too much about it. But yeah, so that was 94. 94 was the year that Heavy Petting Zoo came out. It could have been 96.
It was around there,
yeah. Yeah, and I bought it at Warehouse, like on cassette tape.
Hell yeah!
And I actually like that was the first punk rock album that I bought for myself because I was trying to get away from the gang life and the drugs at one point, and I was just like, I'm gonna start skating again. And I bought that album, and I was like, I bought that album because I saw some kid at the skate shop wearing a NoFX shirt, and just like the way that it looked. So, but I wasn't really. I mean, I was kind of aware of it. And then especially from like 80s movies, man, like growing up in the 80s, like so many movies where the punks were like the bad guy. I was a punk rocker, I think back in 88. I was pretty like
for Halloween.
I was pretty, yeah. And I had like the glitter in my hair, the tore up clothes. And there was just something that at the time I didn't recognize why.
Right.
I mean, I totally do now because it's just a sort of symbol of rebellion, and they looked different. They basically were a visual representation of how I felt on the inside.
Right.
Especially growing up in dysfunction and not really wanting to be a part of that. So, but anyway, so that was like the first shift in that, and then I ended up going back to the neighborhood that I was a part of. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's missing, and this is bits and pieces really. Yeah. But I ended up going back and hanging out because I was bored where I was at. I was living in Riverside, and there was no skate parks, and I was just bored. I wasn't meeting any girls. I was like going to continuation school, and I went back for a day, and then I ended up meeting with one of the dudes that I used to hang with, and we hung out with girls and we drank and was like, yeah, this is where I need to be again. And then I went back, and I ended up, I mean, I could get into that. I don't know if you want to hear that, or if you just want to hear my like when I shift or when I'd
like to hear. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, however you want to. I want you to tell your story.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Like how, like what at what point did you really decide like I'm fucking done with this? I want to be this person. I want to be, because you're a photographer. Skateboard. You got the podcast, all that stuff. Like, how did that stuff come about? Like, where I know it was a long process.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, we'd be here for like 5 hours, but so the sort of overview of it. So when I got locked up, I was gung-ho about like I was saying earlier, I kind of commit to whatever it is that I'm into.
You're an extremist. All in.
Oh, I'm
all
big
in,
time.
Dude.
I'm an addict. I mean, I have an addict's mind where it's just like, this is what I'm all about. So when I got to prison, I wanted to be the best prisoner possible. Right. And what I mean by that was like, I wanted to be in a prison gang, and I wanted to, I watched way too much of Blood In, Blood Out and American Me, where it was just like, and again, I put on a mask when I was there, and I went all in. And so I think about my second or third year in, because I did 5 years.
You did 5?
I did 5 years. I was 17. I got tried in as an adult, and I was sent up to Susanville to the 2 yards. So there's like 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the levels there. And the higher you go, the higher the security. So I started off on a 2 yard, which was a fire camp. I had the opportunity to go to a fire camp, and I didn't. I just was still fucking up. So I ended up going to 3 yard, and then there, I was hanging around like prison gang guys, and I was like, it's not called prospecting. I don't even remember what it's called.
Yeah. But essentially, that's the same mentality, right?
Yeah,
you get let in as like a fucking, hang around, and then you're, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
If you do the fucking dirty work,
I do all the dirty work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I was totally cool, which is weird, but I was totally cool with somebody else, like, using me to do stuff in order to get to a position,
Right.
But again, it all goes back to I just want to be a part of something and be accepted by something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really heavy into that. Right. And we kind of talked about this in my first episode on Screaming at a Wall podcast. My buddy Sick Boy, who was doing 8 or 9 years, he was getting pretty close. I think he was about like 2 more years left when I first met him, or like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. He was a Skino punk rocker, skater. And so we were playing basketball one day, and he had seen something in me. I mean, like a lot of the lifers saw something in me, where I was like on the MAC committee, which is like Men's Advisory Council. And you basically, it's like the politics, like the inmates bringing in the politics of like, hey, we want a punching bag on the yard, or we want like a new diet. Like, there are those guys that go and talk to the warden. Okay. And at this point, I'm like 19, 20. I'm like, why do I don't even know why they want me
How am I
to
here?
do? Yeah. Why? I don't understand, but they saw something in me. So there's, along the way, along my journey, there's always been that for me. And I just never got it because I didn't have those type of reinforcements growing up. So it was always a question of like who I was, what I was doing, and, whatever. And so my buddy Sick Boy, who was, like I said, the Skino hardcore punk dude that skated, he saw something in me. And then we were like talking about skateboarding or something after playing basketball one day. And it was before I really knew anything about him. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh yeah, I used to skate too. And I told him like the last deck I had was like an Alien Workshop, the Believe deck.
Nice. I had that one.
Yeah, I have it. I have it tattooed on me because it was my last board before I started fucking up again. Right. But yeah, he ended up giving me punk rock cassettes because we ended up, that somehow evolved into talking about like punk rock music, and then I probably told him like the stuff that I had heard, but I never really heard anything. And man, I'm really glad that he had that conversation with me, man, because I really honestly I was this close to going to a level 4 yard because I was still messing up, and I was gonna get transferred across the street to High Desert State Prison,
right?
And that's a kind of place that where you go,
you don't
and
get
they're
out.
like, hey, well, yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you make your way into being a lifer over there. You know what I mean?
I would have been
100%.
Because they're like, hey, here's this knife. Go do that to that guy. Yeah. And if you don't do that, we're gonna stab you with that knife.
Right.
So anyway, he loaned me Bad Religion, the Stranger Than Fiction. Oh no, I'm sorry, Suffer. And it was Suffer, and then he ended up, I think, loaning me Bad Brains and the Clash, Black Market Clash. And whatever was in me, what has always been in me, came out when I listened to Bad Religion.
Nice, dude.
Intellectually, like lyrically, like philosophically, the energy of it, like getting my mind to start thinking outside of what I already sort of perceived as what reality is. It all came crashing down on me, right? So I started listening to the music, and then I started questioning myself a little bit more. And this was probably maybe about like 6 months, 8 months later. I was in my cell, and I don't know what happened, but I just started staring at the wall. And it was day room at the time, and I didn't go out. And I'm just staring at the wall, and it was almost like a mental breakdown. Wow, I mean, it was a mental breakdown, man.
Yeah.
And Sick Boy comes up to my cell, and he's like, "How come you're not like out in day room?" and I'm just staring at the wall. Like I hear him, but I'm not responding, and I'm just I'm disconnected completely. And he's like, well, okay, have fun staring at the wall or whatever. And I don't think he like realized that in that moment, because I was still hanging out with those dudes. We were kind of like, I was hanging out with Sick Boy a lot more, but I was still hanging around with those dudes, and it was getting close to a time where I was gonna do something, and I mean, do something that would allow me, or that would cause me to maybe possibly get a lot more time. And I think that's when it all kind of came to a head for me, was in that moment.
Wow.
And it was a lot, because I didn't know how. I was just, I can't do this anymore, because for the first time, it really hit me. I was like, I'm applying so much pressure to myself. It's me. Nobody's asking me to be around these guys. No one is. I'm doing this for this is all me. And because it hit, I was like, man, I could get life. I could be in here for the rest of my life. And that's what really, like, that was the first moment that hit, that I was like, I have a choice. And I felt like for the first time, I felt like I had a choice, man. And I had to like go up to one of the shot callers and tell him, and he was a lifer too. And he was, so he was a lifer. And I remember saying, tell him, let's walk, let's take a lap. And so I told him like everything. I was like, I have a date, and I don't want this to be my life. You know what I mean? Like and he totally fucking understood.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. I mean,
because
it could go the other way so fast, right? I mean,
it could have, it totally could have. And,
those types of guys, man, the guys that are really in there for life, especially on a fucking weird charge, they fucking know, dude. They know deep down what they do. They've done that same thing 100,000 fucking times, and then had to realize they're not getting out. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't imagine that fucking, it's.
And then when they see somebody that
hits that realization, I mean, it's amazing, man.
I'm really fortunate in the fact that I was around, because there was another lifer named Twig, Forrest Richardson. He boxed back in Quinton. He was like a champ back in the, I think, early 80s or late 70s. That's a dude that he ended up murdering some dude that like raped his buddy's sister. So they just went over there, and it's just like, does that dude deserve to be? No, I mean, the guy doesn't deserve to die, but like the fact that he has to spend the rest of his life. I mean, and he was one of the most sweetest. You just look in his eyes. That's the thing about like lifers too. Those lifers that are good-hearted dudes, that there's still like a glimmer of hope, and maybe that glimmer of hope is like giving, imparting like wisdom to like someone that's younger like me. Is there's something in their eye that I've never seen out here, never have seen out here. And they those are the dudes that, it's a bummer when I think about some of those dudes are never gonna get out. And but it's also the reason that I'm still out, is because I always reflect on those dudes that were there for me that never got that chance. And I've said it before, I feel like I would be slapping them across the face if I went back to that place.
Right. How disappointed would they be in you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like when you grow up with no direction, no fucking love, no support, no, all this reaction and action is looking for, to belong, to fucking feel wanted, to be understood, to fucking be a part of something, right?
We all want that, yeah.
We all want that, you know what I mean? And if you didn't get it at home, you fucking find it somewhere else. And that's how it goes,
Right.
But when you think about those guys that have had that chance or are sitting there, it's like, they fucking know, dude. And, I've met people with that same glimmer, and I've met people that don't have anything in their eyes. You know what I mean? Soulless motherfuckers when you talk to them, and you're like, whew, man, and they're exactly where they want to be in prison, fucking doing
or just have accepted.
Or have accepted it.
That.
Yeah, defeat.
Yeah,
but you see a little defeat behind there. I've seen some icy motherfuckers,
because I have that potential. I mean, especially because I've gone. I mean, that's the scary part of being someone that has been there, that has gone to the edge. Mm-hmm. It's always there, and
it can be accessed at any moment.
Always, and it's frowned upon for dudes that have been locked up. Like, why are you still talking about it? Why are you still, And my question always to people like that is, do you question why a veteran still talks about being in war?
Right.
Because those people are they still have dealt with the same issues, and maybe even worse, because you're dealing with, like, my life is on the line every day. Not to say that, like, some dudes in the military are like, it could be every day. Yeah. But you're emotionally, you're still dealing with the same traumas.
Or it's the same PTSD, dude. You know what I mean?
Or if you're a recovering addict,
right?
You're gonna be Danny Trejo, still a recovering addict. Noah Levine, like, he's still a recovering addict,
right?
And I think he said he was sober since 1988.
Yeah. When I heard that Danny Trejo episode on Mark Maron, I was like, in the 60s you got clean, dude. What the fuck? Or it was like something like, it was like. He's been clean for 45 fucking years, you know what I mean? But he still accesses that shit like it was yesterday, you know what I mean? It's always a trip, but
it's a funny story, because I don't know if he talked about it in the podcast, but I'm really into Eddie Bunker, who was Mr. Blue. Are you familiar with Eddie Bunker?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. He's the one who actually got Danny Trejo into acting, to movies.
Okay.
Because Danny Trejo was he was a sponsor to some kid, and that was working on a movie, right? And it was Runaway Train with John Boyd.
Right.
And so the kid was like, hey, he was like a PA or something, and he called up Danny. He's like, hey, they're doing coke on the set, and I'm like thinking about using. Danny Trejo's like, dude, I'll be right down there. Like, so gives him the address. He goes down to the set, and he can't find the kid, and he ends up seeing Eddie Bunker. Now, Eddie Bunker was someone that he did time with, I think, in Soledad, because Eddie Bunker, who played Mr. Blue, had written a bunch of crime novels, and then they were actually adapting his screenplay into a movie.
Oh, I didn't.
Runaway Train. So he was actually on set, and I don't know, they saw each other, and he's like, hey, Danny, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? He's like, oh, they're making a movie, based on my screenplay. And he's like, hey, we need because it was like it was like a prison scene. And he's like, hey, we need an actor. Do you want to be like in the movie? And he's like, dude, I don't know if I can think about acting. And he's like, you just be yourself. You're a prisoner. You know how to do that. And that's how he got his start. I don't know. This is really cool.
But that goes into the same thing we were talking about earlier about, like, this dude is a fucking wolf. And he just walked in the middle of Hollywood, and with his face alone, everyone's all, whatever you want, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you're terrifying. Oh my God. Like, and you watch how people, because this guy has a wild fucking story. Obviously the faces doesn't help, but like, he's a nice fucking guy, but has, like, this is what I mean when, like, a wolf walks into a situation that people aren't ready for. Hollywood's wasn't ready for a Danny Trejo, and they, you know what I mean? Not that he didn't get there on talent and hard work and all that, but when you see people that have lived a life like him, and you watch him work among people that grew up rich in Hollywood, of fucking course he's going to do whatever he wants to do. You know what I mean? Because if he were to pull someone aside and be like, hey, let me talk to you for a minute, you'd be like, okay. Like, any director on earth is going to be like, no problem, dude. Like,
I got you.
Whatever.
You want me to get you coffee? I'll get you coffee.
No problem.
I'll do that right now.
Yeah, man. It's a trip,
Much respect to all those dudes, because I don't know. There's definitely something about that type of convict, and they're rare, because a lot of those dudes are either locked up for the rest of their life or they're dead.
Yeah.
And so, but there's something about, like, the dude Shane, Danny Trejo, and Eddie Bunker. There's some beauty in those dudes for me. You know what I mean? Like,
and they're authentic. They're authentically them. You know what I mean? Like, there's not another. I mean, yes, there's people that are like that, grew up in these crazy situations. There's endless stories, but when you are full of authenticity, it's hard to ignore it. You know what I mean? Especially being like LA, like, you know, you meet the most inauthentic.
There's some good actors out there.
Actors,
though, you know
fine,
I mean?
but authentic humans, you know what I mean? An authentic human stands out all day, right? That's the same. Like, I'm a big fan of Joey Coco Diaz, that comedian. Are you familiar with him?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and he is the most authentic motherfucker, and I could listen to him talk all fucking day. You know what I mean? Because he is him, and he's, you know, it's just there's not anything that's going to change it. You know,
I appreciate that type of person.
Me too.
It's because you definitely don't deal with it on a day to day, and like when you actually interact with something like that, for me it's really refreshing. But yeah, that was the start. I mean, that was really the start for me getting into punk rock, and then I just from that moment on, man, I was like, I'm done. I mean, I was still doing stuff here and there, you know, just because you can't avoid it completely in there. And that was another thing too, is I still had like a temper. I didn't understand my anger. There was a lot of things I just didn't understand. But the goal to, you know, I still have my goal list that I made when I was busted, and it was like, go to college and take photography classes, and you know what I mean? Like, just all I've checked off. I mean, it's a small list, and it's just like nothing now compared.
No, but it
to
means
like
so much, dude.
Oh,
you
for
know,
me it does,
it means so much, you know, like
when I look at it.
Yeah, it does, you know, and I mean, obviously being photographer, did you actually go to college to be a photographer? Is that what you ended up doing?
Well, I ended up going to film school.
Oh, okay.
And then my focus was on cinematography, which was basically photography, but just, you know, moving stills. But and that was that's a whole nother. There's a lot, you know what I mean? There's a lot, but I started to just become, I guess, acclimated to what most people go through, you know.
Right.
What do I want to do for my future? I mean, granted, I was a little late, you know what I mean? I wasn't too late, but I've had my issues with that because I've sort of just dropped into this world where I've always felt uncomfortable trying to be normal, right? Like, I mean, you were kind of talking about that earlier, where for one, I already, you know, and that's why I gravitate towards punk rock, where I can feel a little bit different within that world, and blend in, you know what I mean? And but yeah, going to college, film school, I always felt, I mean, I did good. Like my short films, got selected for the best of, and I did really well in that world. I think not to toot my own horn, but it's whatever I've done, I've done well in. And even with all that information that I have, I still have a mind that doesn't allow me to accept that because of the deep-seated dysfunction from before.
Right.
It's constantly just growing and adapting and pivoting and just like moving like a shark. I'm just like one of those people, like if I stop, I'm done. Like I'll end up, my mind starts going back to like that place. And
totally,
like I said, it's really easy to do.
So yeah, it is. I mean, it is, it's always the thing that I find talking to more and more people that grew up in chaotic situations or found punk rock and figured out how to fucking make things work on their own and take chances on themselves and fail and get up, is that when you do set your mind to doing something, most of us end up doing it pretty fucking well, right? Because we're not scared of failure. We've been failing most of our fucking lives. You know what I mean? Like, what's another failure? You know, like me booking my own tours fucking 6 weeks at a time across the country when it eats shit. I got no one else to blame besides me. You know what I mean? Like, when I got into,
I was going to say, where your perspective of failure changes, like your idea about what that even means, is because you're actually, I was talking to Shane Anholm the other day about most people are not in the arena, they're not fighting. Like they're in it. Like they're down there fighting. And most people are spectators.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, when you're that person, it doesn't really matter.
Win or lose, you're doing it.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. But what I found, the through line is that I found is most people that have had those extreme failures in their life, when they do if they pull out of it, if they focus, if they do the thing, they go super fucking far pretty quick. And it's not because of a handout. It's not because of anything, but it's because they understand how to take ownership of their failures, how to fucking move forward, how to just say, I fucked this up. Can I make it right? What can we do to fix it? You know what I mean? And you can beat yourself up later for shit, but I found in what I do is I moved up from literally a knowing nothing about running heavy equipment to being a superintendent in 10 years. And I credit punk rock, and I credit fucking DIY culture, and I credit the way that I grew up, because I didn't have anyone there to fucking pick me up and tell me it's going to be okay and you don't have to try no more. Everything I ever did, it was like, cool, do it again. Fuck, fail. Like, no one's there to smooch your ass. It just, and you end up fucking going, when punks and people of that same mindset put their minds to it, they're wildly successful at it, and it's cool.
I was gonna say, what do you think it is, like what defines, I guess, punk rock ethic or a mindset? Because I do, and not because we're individuals, and right. It can vary, but I definitely, there's a correlation there to me, and I don't know if that's because of punk rock having that against the grain attitude and always like to question things. That also means to always question yourself and where you are. That allows that ability to constantly readjust and see things differently as you're getting new information, right, or whatever. It's just an openness, I guess. I don't know. Really sure.
Yeah, I don't. For me, I mean, I can only tell you what mine is, right? Like, my drive is purely based on the fact that I knew that no one was going to help me get the things done that I wanted to do. There was as much as my mom's an amazing person, 4 kids, poor as fuck, 3 jobs. You know what I mean? Like, if I wanted something, I had to get it. And I had to figure out how to get it. And I had to fucking figure out how to steal shit from Kmart and then find a receipt in the trash can, go grab the items in the store,
anyone
and then return
under
them
30
for cash.
years old is like, what is Kmart?
Target. Let's call it Target. I had to figure, you know what I mean?
Like,
man. Yeah.
Sorry.
I figured out, if I need fucking money, I'm going to go grab a receipt on the trash can. I'm going to pull 2 or 3 items from that receipt. I'm going to walk up to the Falcon counter and I'm going to return them and get some money. You know what I mean? Like, that type of shit where no one, not that I wasn't loved, but if I wanted it, I had to earn it and I had to figure it out. And I think a lot of, like, for me, it was playing music. I wanted to play music from a very early age. I wanted to be in a touring band. I still have my goal list of playing music. I wanted to be in a band that has toured. I wanted to put out my own vinyl, and I wanted to fucking, I had a couple things on there, and I've done every one of them, but that was my goal list. I wanted to be able to do it, and there was no one that was going to do it besides me, and so I think just grinding and using that punk rock spirit, this fucking, we don't need you, we don't need anyone else, we can fucking do this, we can build our own community. Fuck your community, fuck the jocks, we'll build our own fucking community. We don't have a venue to play at, fuck that, we'll play in a fucking parking lot. We'll steal a generator and use that. You know what I mean? Like,
by any means necessary.
By any fucking means necessary.
The attitude just to
seek and
to figure it
destroy.
out.
Like, it's, I don't know if it's purely punk rock or just me and trauma and the way I grew up,
Yeah, it's probably, it's all those ingredients.
Right.
And I was just going to talk about, for the people out there that struggle, I mean, I interact with quite a few people that, they go through struggles. I mean, especially like owning a skate shop and dealing with a lot of kids that come from broken homes.
Right.
There's definitely like a reoccurring theme.
Totally.
And it's just, a lot of it's like guidance. But I found, for myself and what I've seen and what I've read and ingested and digested from a lot of smart people that have lived like crazy experiences is that it's super important to have goals.
Right.
And without goals, I mean, because you were talking earlier about like you have these goals, these lists, these things that you wanted to accomplish for yourself, and it doesn't matter like how you get there. Right? Like you're gonna get there with that sort of punk rock attitude. As I feel like a lot of people, and this was for myself, I just didn't have any goals.
Totally.
There was like, and
they're lost. People are fucking lost.
Yeah, you're on a boat and you have no destination. Yeah. And you're just on it and you're just floating and you just, of course you're like, where am I going?
Where the fuck am I going? Yeah. That's what I tell my kids all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, dude, I don't care what it is you do, but whatever it is, do it. Like, find a little thing that you love to fucking do and develop on that. You know what I mean? And that will turn into something. You know what I mean? That's how it goes.
You're getting me to smile, and you're gonna get me to bring out my lighter side of just talking about my daughter. That's another reason. I'm really, when I think about it, she's the only reason that I'm probably not going, especially after my skate shop closed and went through because I was starting to do cocaine for a little bit, was drinking heavily, even though she was like five at the time. And I quickly pulled myself out of that because I was like, I loved having a child. Like my daughter Aria, it's weird. It is. I get to see like a healthy version of how I would have been. Yeah. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I saw your Instagram post of, one that stands out to me is, I believe it's your daughter, but she like did makeup and there's like the flowers on her.
Oh
too.
yeah.
Is that your daughter?
That's my daughter. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So
she's wildly talented artist. I mean,
dude,
crazy.
Your kids look like they are. And my daughter just started private school, which is another like I don't even but it's not like a foo-foo like.
No man, hey, if you can provide that for your children, do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But it's more they actually have music class every day. They have they meditate. Awesome. It's but she's only been there for 2 weeks, man, and you could already see it. There's something else like going on already because public school that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic, man. But yeah, kids are, I mean, I've said it before. My mom told me one time, it's super easy to be a shitty parent. It's the easiest thing you could do. Be a piece of shit parent.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And to be a good fucking parent is the most impossible fucking task. And they're not even going to think about thanking you till they're 25. You know what I mean? So like, don't even fucking worry about it. But man,
I've been pretty fortunate thus far on that process. I know it may change. I
How
tell
old?
her daily. She's just turned 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I tell her daily, dude.
Yeah, my boy's talking to me. Anyway.
Oh, tell him I said hi.
Yeah, no problem.
What's up? I know. I tell her daily. I was like, please don't tell me that you hate me one day.
Oh,
please don't tell me I hate you, Dad.
Brutal, dude.
I'm like, just please.
I'll tell you what, man. 13, right? My daughter's 13, and those hormones start kicking in, buddy, and it is. Whoo, it's a ride, man.
I'm just really hoping that I don't that cliche doesn't happen, that somehow we miss that part, and she's gonna,
Yeah. Oh, she'll come down. She'll fucking come out of her room so pissed at you for something you had nothing to do with, and you're like, what? What was that?
She'll get a pass. She gets a pass though on being that way. Like,
that's okay. Her. Well, I've always said, like, I always joke my daughter's gonna be an incredible ex-wife. She's gonna fucking destroy somebody, dude. And that's good.
My daughter's a Leo too. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, it's fucking.
She is.
I am.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, okay. I am. But yeah, she fucking. She's a savage, dude, and she has all of my same tenets. Negotiating, fucking. We got in an argument one time about chores, and she brought me a straight up contract that she had written about what she wanted to do for how much money.
That's amazing. And she came up with that on her own.
Oh yeah, because it's something.
Beautiful.
And so she's like, she wanted to get paid like $2 a chore, like a day. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? You think I'm gonna pay you $25 a week? So we're arguing, negotiating, dude. And so now my wife's on to it. She's like, you guys stop. It's getting ridiculous. I'm on, no, hold on. And she's like, you know what? Why don't we put a pin in it and we'll talk about it later. I'm all, you don't table negotiations with me, dude. I fucking tabled the you. Yeah. I was like, oh, I mean, she was like 10, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
It's fucking
it's
nuts,
funny
man.
because that's what I told my daughter.
Oh.
I was like, if you want something, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, you need to come at me with something else. You don't just accept that I say no. You need to be like, well, I'll do this or I'll do that, or you have to work it because you're gonna go through your life. And
my kids
tell you no.
No is the very first starting point for them. It's fucking dude. They brought me a 23 slide PowerPoint presentation on why they wanted a bird the other day. I was like, you're out of your fucking minds, dude. Like,
you have
they're
not.
They're little savages, and I'm so proud of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
you have to. You have to buy the bird if they're good. No. If they're putting that, it's still not.
Fuck no.
I would be like, yes. I don't know.
We have 2 dogs, a cat, a bearded fucking dragon. 2
my daughter
frogs.
has a bearded dragon.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're not getting a fucking bird, dude. It's the worst animal.
That might you calling it. You're like, no.
I think it's inherently wrong to own one. You can't. They got one thing they do, and that's fly, and you've just taken it away from them. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Not happening, dude. So I said, I love your PowerPoint. I love the effort. Keep it up. Absolutely not. And I hit him with the thumb like a president. Nope, not happening.
Yeah, not happening.
Gonna do it.
Is there like sub on YouTube or something? Because my daughter wanted a bird all of a sudden.
It's kids, dude. All kids are into anime and being lesbians.
Anime, yeah. She's totally into
and then
My Hero
next
Academia.
year she's gonna be non-binary, and then fucking birds.
That's
I don't know. It's the new punk rock. It's the new punk rock. New punk rock. It is.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it's been a pleasure having you on, brother. I think we're almost at 2 solid hours here, which is rad.
Has it been 2 hours?
It's right about there. Hour, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, regardless, I feel like I just got on here.
I know, dude. This is awesome.
I don't even feel like I talked about anything.
We'll have to do a part 2, man.
And it's so trippy to be on this side of it. There's like less pressure, but it's cool. Like I enjoyed it. We're just talking.
Man. Well, dude, if you want to throw out, I mean, I know you're taking photos, you're doing stuff. You got any Instagram handles, anything going on that you want to throw out? Go ahead.
So if you just go to Instagram, Screaming at a Wall Podcast, we have that link tree, and it has like all the links to all the platforms and like all that stuff. Check out Confusion Magazine. They're Confusion Magazine. .com. I just had a photo that was in that magazine. Nice. And they've always had my back. In fact, the dude Jonathan that owned Concussion sent me my shirt that I wore when I was released out of prison. Now he has a magazine called Confusion.
That's right.
He's always had my back, and they're DIY. They're all about DIY skateboarding. And I was able to share an article with my buddy Clayton Grawl, which was really cool. He's Urban Skate Project, Skate DIY.
Okay.
All DIY. But yeah, like everything's on there. I have a photography Instagram as well, Still Your Soul, with _. But yeah, man, I'm just doing the podcast thing. It's been really fun. So thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, really likewise, man. It. I mean, I'm so stoked. A random fucking hit up on IG. You know what I mean?
That's the way you got to do it, man.
No, you got to make your way to Ventura. You know, we'll hang out. You know.
Oh yeah, I would definitely love to. I'm kind of bummed that we didn't get to do it in person. Yeah, energy's you know what I mean.
It is a big deal, man. Yeah,
it is what it is. You know.
Fuck yeah, brother. All right.